Well, school board member Maureen Dinnen, you've been on the ballot before.
Yes.
You're not this time. You've
Correct.
run several times for election, gone through qualifying before. What is qualifying all about? I mean, is it a big deal for politicians, for the public? Talk a little bit about that,
I think it is
please.
a big deal because it is the final decision moment. In 2004, I recognized that I had an extra opponent. I had 3 opponents in that race eventually, up until pretty much before qualifying, I only had 2. So it added a new dimension. In 2008, that was a real nail-biter because I did not have an opponent, and right up until the last moment I kept calling to find out if I had an opponent because, of course, that means a great deal of work and money raising and other things that you will have to do. So, yes, it's very crucial to the candidate.
One of the things that seems to happen, sort of following up on what you just said, there usually seem to be some surprises, maybe not in
Correct.
every race, but somebody that we all expect is going to run will not qualify. Someone no one expected to qualify will suddenly turn up. Does that seem to be what happens?
Oh, yes. People's lives change. There's an illness in their family. They reconsider. I mean, it is the moment of truth. And you finally have to say, do I really want to do this? Do I have the so-called fire in the belly? Because running for office is strenuous. It is. There's really nothing like it in the world. You cannot predict what it's going to be like before you do it. It's a crazy time. You have to put your life literally on hold.
Well, and to follow up, this year seems extraordinary. I mean,
Yes.
I think one could say it's been a crazy year in politics. I mean, do you see it that way, and what does that do to and for candidates?
Well, it is a crazy year because there seems to be, being a historian, I know that depressions or recessions cause a certain angst among the voting population. There's that in play. There are people who want to just throw everybody out who's in office because the times are terrible and they are legitimately bad in their lives. And so I worry about that because there are some good office holders in place right now, and I don't want to see them thrown out, so the baby with the bath, so to speak. So it's a time of change, it's a time of uncertainty, and I think that that's enhanced right now because of the uncertainty in the national scene and the uncertainty at the state level. With third parties gaining a lot of prominence and independent voters being very unpredictable. So this is a very difficult set of waters in which to navigate.
Is it especially difficult for incumbents this year? I mean, usually incumbents do pretty well, but do you think 2010 is going to be a...
I can't tell if that's real or that's something we keep repeating and saying. I think it's difficult at this point to diagnose. For example, people use the Arlen Specter example in Pennsylvania, and yet he changed his party at the last minute. Now, how much that came to bear on the situation, I don't know. So I think there is an anti-incumbent feeling. The depth of it, I'm not sure.
The other phenomenon that seems to be pretty prevalent this year is very wealthy candidates. We saw this past week, California, 2 nominees winning after spending a lot of their own money. And we're seeing in Florida, each party has, in a high-profile race, a very wealthy candidate willing to spend a lot of money. I mean, how does that play into things?
It concerns me when a candidate goes for like a national office or a gubernatorial office, having never held another public office. Now, I know it's quite possible for someone to do well at those levels, having not held an office, but that's unusual. I think it's good for you to be seasoned, so to speak, to handle a budget, to handle the deluge of constituent complaints, to know how to navigate the local waters or the state waters before you go national, or the local waters before you go statewide. I just think that those are valuable lessons for any office holder to have learned.
But it seems that maybe this year, if you have enough money to put in statewide television advertising, the voters that message may not get to the voters.
We have never solved this problem about how you raise money. We don't like people to go to lobbyists. We don't like people to go to companies. And yet, a district like mine, for example, I have 137,000 registered voters. I cannot walk that many to those many houses. And yet, how does one get their message out? The people who are interested in politics are the ones who contribute. And very often they're people who have something to gain from that. So we've kind of boxed ourselves in. Until we get into responsible public financing or some mechanism, we're going to be faced with this problem here. And so a very wealthy person has an edge.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.